The Return of Godzilla was directed by Koji Hashimoto and was released on December 15th, 1984. This is the first entry in the Heisei series of Godzilla. It serves as a reboot to the whole franchise and a sequel to the original film only, ignoring all the other films in between. The Return of Godzilla is special as it was the first big return for the character since being taken off movie screens in 1975. This movie exists partially because of a large letter-writing campaign from the Godzilla Resurrection Committee, submitting letters to Toho and demanding a new entry in the series. This movie was rather elusive to me. I didn't see it till I was about 11 or 12 years old, and even then it was the US cut, Godzilla 1985, which we will talk about in its own episode. Trust me, there's plenty to talk about there.
That's quite an urban renewal program they got going over there.
During a large storm, a fishing vessel is washed into an island that Godzilla is located on. A reporter named Goro Maki, not that one, discovers the ship and finds several mummified people and large sea louse. Just before he is killed by one of these sea louse, the last survivor of the ship saves Maki. The survivor named Hoshi Okamura confirms that the thing that attacked the ship was Godzilla. The Japanese government puts a media blackout on the fact that Godzilla has returned, much to the annoyance of Maki. Maki then goes and meets Professor Hayashida, who begins to research Godzilla and ways to stop him. Meanwhile, a Soviet nuclear submarine is attacked and sinks, leading to the USSR claiming the USA sank the sub. This causes the Japanese government to go public with the news that Godzilla sank the submarine. Soon after, Godzilla attacks the Mihama nuclear power plant, absorbing all the radiation. Godzilla then follows a flock of birds out to sea. Professor Hayashida and Hoshi Okamura determine that Godzilla is attracted by a similar magnetic force that birds use for migration, and develop a plan to attract Godzilla to the dormant volcano Mihara, and use explosives to send Godzilla into the lava. Representatives for the USA and the USSR meet with the Japanese Prime Minister and insist they must use nuclear weapons on Godzilla. After contemplation, the Prime Minister declines these requests. Godzilla then arrives in Tokyo Bay, causing mass panic and a quick setup of the JSDF. His attack begins by knocking out the entire defense line at the bay. During his attack, a Soviet freighter containing nuclear launch systems for an orbiting nuclear satellite is damaged and has the countdown go off. The JSDF launches a new experimental weapon called Super X, loaded with cadmium shells to defeat Godzilla. The shells seemingly work, killing Godzilla. The Soviet missile launches directly towards Godzilla. The US intercept the missile, causing nuclear fallout to descend over Tokyo, reviving Godzilla, who then pursues and destroys Super X. The magnetic signal is activated at Mount Mihara, which works in attracting Godzilla. Once Godzilla arrives, the explosives are fired and Godzilla is sent falling into the volcano, trapping him forever. This is the middle child of the serious Godzilla movies, and what I mean by that is it treats Godzilla deadly serious with an aura of realism around it. The other films in this series being the original Godzilla and Shin Godzilla. The Return of Godzilla, though, is the most fantasy-like of the three, with stuff like Super X and the high-powered laser beam cars. I think this movie is gorgeous. This is the only Godzilla movie, really, of the 1980s, and it looks the part. The shots of Shinjuku at night are stunning and are some of my favorite city shots in the entire series. This movie also brings back the concerns of radioactivity to Godzilla and creates a very tense tone as Godzilla almost starts a nuclear war between the USA and USSR, and then having the respective countries demand Japan to let them use nuclear weapons on Tokyo to kill Godzilla. I think the story of Goro Maki, not that one, and Naoko, the seeming love interest and sister to Hoshi Okamura, it comes off as rather half-baked and feels like they wanted to do something like the Emiko Ogata and Serizawa plot of the original film, but they were unable to really make it connect to the story as well as Godzilla did it. One of my favorite moments in the film is when Godzilla comes back to life after the nuclear strike over Tokyo and proceeds to chase down the Super X. The shot of Godzilla blowing his atomic breath through the building is incredible. The effects work was done by Teruyushi Nakano, returning from Terror Mechagodzilla 9 years prior. His work on this film is pretty good. I love the giant Shinjuku set. Something about Godzilla being shorter than the skyscrapers around him is just really cool. Some compositing shots don't really hold up and look pretty rough, and there's also the infamous Cybot Godzilla, a giant Godzilla animatronic built specifically for the Return of Godzilla, and was supposed to be used in close-up shots to have more expression from Godzilla. But the final result leaves much to be desired. This idea, however, would be later refined into the much better puppet heads used in the rest of the Heisei era. This movie also features the foot, a giant life-size foot only used in a few shots in the film. Not much to say about it, I just wanted to say that it existed for the film. It does show, though, that they were trying to innovate and do new stuff with Godzilla to make him more realistic in a way. The suit for Godzilla in this movie is great, referred to by fans as the 84 Goji. It really looks like a 1980s version of the original Godzilla. This design also debuted the puffy dorsal plate design you see in the later Heisei films. Speaking about the plates, this suit features something unique and exclusive to this design. The largest centerline dorsal plate is at around the waist rather than in the upper back, like most of the designs. Might not seem like much, but it does set this one apart. Some effects don't really hold up that well, such as the sea louse. Some shots it looks really cool, but most of the time it looks like a giant stiff prop flying around the set. The Super X is a really fun design. I like anti-kaiju weapons, so this one really works for me. And finally, the score for this movie was done by Renjiro Koroku, and this is his only contribution to the series, and it is fantastic. A very intense score, with highlight tracks including the main theme, the attack on the Soviet submarine, and the finale track. Some interesting trivia on the film. Tetsuya Takeda is featured as a homeless man. He was a Japanese folk singer and a huge Godzilla fan, and is used as a comedic character in the film who insults Godzilla multiple times before being killed by Godzilla. During Godzilla's attack on Yurakucho, he is seen falling through the street. This is because that road used to be where a river was. Godzilla had walked over the same river on a bridge in the original. He also attacks the Yurakucho Mullion building, which is where the Nichigeki Theater was in the original. The Mullion building at the time was a Toho theater, creating a bit of synergy between the first film and the new film. This is actually the last Godzilla movie to get a DVD or Blu-ray release in the United States. Kraken Releasing released the movie in around 2016. It's very good, nice sharp image, and has really nice subtitles, including translations of the on-screen text, which is pretty rare for Godzilla movies. Most times you just get the dialogue and that's it. It also includes its English dub in rather high quality. High quality audio-wise, quality-wise for the dub. Well, that's the Return of Godzilla. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something. I'll see you next week where we cover the most profitable film of the Heisei era.